Have you ever wondered what dinner might have looked like 200 years ago? Let's take a trip back in time to the dawn of the 19th century, an era marked by massive social, political, and economic shifts. A world where food and lifestyle were dictated by the social class and geographical location. The cuisine of the time mirrored the diversity of the society. At one end of the spectrum, the wealthy, with their lavish tables adorned with a variety of foods such as meats, fish, fresh fruits, and vegetables. These were not just meals, but a display of affluence, a testament to their high social standing. On the other hand, the less privileged had a simpler, more humble diet. Bread, cereals, and legumes were staples, the cornerstones of their nutritional intake. Not as glamorous perhaps, but these economical foods kept families nourished and sustained through the trials of the times. The contrast between the diets of the rich and the poor was stark, a reflection of the societal structure of the era. Yet, this disparity was not just about food. It was an illustration of the broader social and economic divisions of the 19th century. Geography too played its role, influencing what was on the dining table. Coastal towns thrived on a diet rich in fish and seafood, while those in the heartland had a menu dominated by meats and grains. The food on the plate was a representation of the place, a flavorful narrative of the land and its resources. The 19th century was not just about survival, it was about exploration, about pushing the boundaries of the known world. This adventurous spirit was reflected in the food of the era, with new ingredients being discovered and incorporated into traditional recipes, adding to the culinary diversity. As we peel back the layers of time, we find that food in the 19th century was as varied as the people who consumed it. It was a mirror of society, a testament to the human ability to adapt and evolve. So, let's delve deeper and explore the tastes and textures of the 19th century. Imagine sitting down to a dinner of soup, stew, or perhaps roasted meat. The 19th century was a time of culinary simplicity, yet delightful variety. The common dishes of the era reflected the rhythm of the seasons and the bounty of local landscapes. The dinner table was a canvas where the colors of the region's foodstuffs painted a vivid picture of the time and place. Soups and stews were the mainstay of the 19th century kitchen. They were a practical choice, not just for their warming comfort, but also for their economy. A pot of soup or stew could stretch a small amount of meat or vegetables into a meal for a whole family. The ingredients varied widely depending on what was available. A typical soup might have been a hearty broth brimming with root vegetables, while a stew could have been a rich medley of meat, potatoes, and seasonal greens. Roasted meat was a treat often reserved for special occasions or Sunday dinners. The type of meat served was largely dependent on the region and the family's economic status. Wealthier households might have enjoyed a succulent roast beef or a tender leg of lamb, while less affluent families might have savored a roasted chicken or a piece of pork. Fish, too, was an important part of the 19th century diet, particularly in coastal regions where it was abundant. From broiled mackerel to fried herring, the sea provided a wide variety of flavors and textures to grace the 19th century table. And let's not forget the role of seasonal and local foods. Long before the era of supermarkets and global food supply chains, people ate what was available locally and seasonally. This meant a diet rich in fresh fruits and vegetables during the harvest season, and preserved foods like pickles, jams, and salted meats during the colder months. Each bite taken was a testament to the season, the local availability of food, and the ingenuity of cooks. The 19th century kitchen was a place of creativity and resourcefulness, where simple ingredients were transformed into nourishing meals that not only fed the body but also the soul. Without modern conveniences, how did our ancestors prepare their meals? Picture this: a bustling kitchen, alive with the aroma of fresh herbs, the crackle of the fire, the hiss of a cast-iron skillet. This was the culinary world of the 19th century, a world of skill, patience, and resourcefulness. In the 19th century, most cooking occurred over open hearths. These hearths were the heart of the home, providing heat, light, and a place to prepare meals. Cooking was a hands-on, all-day affair, requiring a keen understanding of how different types of wood affected the flavor and cooking time of dishes. The dawn of the century also saw the introduction of the cast-iron stove. This revolutionary appliance provided a more controlled and efficient way to cook, with separate compartments for boiling, baking, and roasting. The cast-iron stove was a game-changer, allowing for more complex dishes and baking techniques. Now let's talk about food preservation. Without refrigeration, 19th century cooks had to get creative. They used methods like canning, smoking, and salting to make their food last. Canning, introduced in the early part of the century, involved sealing food in airtight jars and boiling them to kill bacteria. This method extended the shelf life of fruits, vegetables, and meats, making them available year-round. Smoking and salting were also common. Meat was hung over smoky fires or packed in salt to draw out moisture and prevent spoilage. These methods not only preserved the food, but also added a distinctive flavor that is still cherished today. In this era, the kitchen wasn't just a place to prepare meals. It was a workshop, a place of creation and preservation. The techniques used by 19th century cooks may seem antiquated to us today, but their ingenuity and resourcefulness continue to influence our culinary landscape. The kitchen was a workshop, a place of creation and preservation, fueling the people of the 19th century. Beyond mere sustenance, what did food represent in the 19th century? In the 19th century, food was much more than fuel for the body. It was a potent symbol of one's social standing, cultural identity, and overall lifestyle. The meals one consumed, the ingredients used, and even the manner of eating were all reflective of a person's position within the societal hierarchy. The wealthy and the upper middle classes, having access to a diverse range of foods, often dined on elaborate multi-course meals. These meals were not merely about satiating hunger, but were also a display of wealth, power, and sophistication. The fine china, the silver cutlery, and the exotic ingredients all told a story of abundance and affluence. On the other hand, the working class and the poor had a much simpler fare. Their meals were often made from inexpensive, locally sourced ingredients. Bread, cereals, and legumes formed the mainstay of their diet. Their food was a testament to their struggle, their resilience, and their resourcefulness. Food also played a significant role in defining cultural identity. Each region had its unique culinary traditions that were deeply intertwined with its history, geography, and way of life. From the hearty stews of the English countryside to the spicy curries of colonial India, food was a tangible manifestation of a community's collective identity. But food in the 19th century was not just about social and cultural symbolism. It was also a determinant of health and well-being. The quality and quantity of food one had access to greatly influenced one's nutritional status, susceptibility to disease, and overall longevity. The stark disparities in the diet of the rich and the poor often translated into stark disparities in health outcomes. So you see, in the 19th century, food was not just about filling the belly. It was a social indicator, a cultural artifact, and a determinant of health. It told a story about who you were, where you came from, and where you stood in the grand scheme of things. Food, in many ways, was a reflection of one's place in society, a marker of wealth and status. How has the 19th century shaped the way we eat and live today? A question that requires us to look back through the lens of time and explore the culinary heritage of the 19th century. The 19th century was a time when food was not just about sustenance, but also a reflection of social status and cultural identity. From the rich and varied fare of the wealthy to the humble yet hearty meals of the working class, the food of this era tells a fascinating story of contrasts and commonalities. The eating habits of the 19th century have left an indelible mark on our culinary landscape. Take, for instance, the concept of farm to table. This buzzword, so popular in today's gastronomic circles, was in fact a way of life in the 19th century. Fresh, locally sourced ingredients were the norm, not the exception. This practice, rooted in necessity, has now evolved into a culinary philosophy that champions sustainability and promotes healthier eating habits. The culinary techniques of the 19th century, too, have had a lasting impact. The art of preserving food, for instance, has evolved and diversified over the years, but its roots can be traced back to the 19th century. From pickling to canning, these methods not only extended the shelf life of food, but also added a unique flavor profile to dishes. But perhaps the most enduring legacy of 19th century food and lifestyle is the idea of food as a communal experience. The act of sharing a meal, of gathering around a table, was a fundamental part of 19th century life. This tradition continues to hold a special place in our lives, reminding us of the power of food to bring people together. So how has the 19th century shaped the way we eat and live today? It has taught us the value of local, fresh ingredients. It has introduced us to culinary techniques that have stood the test of time. And it has reminded us of the joy of sharing a meal with loved ones. The 19th century, with its unique blend of tradition and innovation, continues to influence our tables, our kitchens, and our lives.